You ready?
Yeah.
Now the game's gonna start.
You mean it hasn't already? Oh, fuck. Dude, you need to put a glove on your hand soon. Where did he get that mark from? It gets explained later.
I actually can't remember.
But it will get explained?
Oh gosh, yes. Ooh, fountain.
That's gorgeous.
I like that. A giant statue of the angel.
We adjusted.
Okay.
Sorry, no sale.
Silly? There's never a charge for the raffle. You've been sleeping under a rock? 77. That's a lucky number. I'll be real.
Number.
Fuck.
Stop. Do not pick 77. Oh god.
Shit. Oh.
This is the thing.
What the fuck is this?
Remember, it's 1912.
Are you kidding me? That's disgusting. Because he's dating a black girl? Okay, I give them props for doing that in this, like, because that's very accurate to history. But I'm revolted. Oh. That's disgusting. I thought they were going to be like, you know, from the Vox Populi. But just because it's a white man dating a black woman?
Slaves? Now remember, slaves.
Were considered cattle. They were considered
They weren't
property.
freed till the 1860s. They were free, but it's not till like 100 years after they're freed that
everyone acknowledged it.
They're free. It doesn't mean they're equal. That's not the same thing.
But that's still disgusting.
Because you remember, even in Lincoln, that's how they could get them free, was not to agree that they are equal to white folk.
Yeah.
But that it's just bad enough that they're slaves. So that's a big thing. That
you know what really upsets me? Because I dated a black guy. The fact that I even dated a Hispanic guy. I dated a Latino before I knew you. I mean, and that would have been so much worse because I'm a Jewish woman dating a black guy.
Mm-hmm.
That would have gotten me. That would have been me. That's just, the human race has never failed to disgust me in some of our history. I see some of the shit that we've done, and I'm not surprised we have had no contact with an alien race. Because they probably see the crap we've done and gone, oh fuck, I ain't touching that shit.
Now, two things to keep in mind.
That really upsets me. At first I didn't realize what it was. And then I heard him say, hit me, or something like that, and it's like, and then you paused, and I realized, and it's like, oh my god.
Now, one,
And I haven't even seen, I just noticed we've been killing
humans
white people.
are incredibly primitive. Two, when they found black people, They lived exactly as they did. White folk were a civilized society.
Oh, I know. I took an
and
ethnics
black
class.
people were tribes.
I took an ethnics class. The whole idea is they compared it to Shakespeare and The Tempest, and the idea of Caliban, and how at the same time Shakespeare had released The Tempest, and he deliberately portrayed Caliban as like the black slaves. That way, in their brain, the British and the future to be American, they thought to themselves, they're lesser, they're lower, they're bestial, they don't believe in Christianity or Catholicism, therefore they are lower than us, they are animals. And even when, and it showed with the Native Americans too, even when they did convert to the religion, even when they did let themselves be colonized, even when they reformed, they were still reviled, they were still judged. They were still looked down upon because of the fact that
they're different. Because their skin is different.
This is what led to the Holocaust, all of the Holocaust, the Native American Holocaust, what happened to the black people, to the Jews. Mutant Registration Act.
It's because
we're afraid of what we don't understand.
That's everything human. What do you do when you see an animal you've never seen?
You catch it, you examine its habits, you kill it, you examine its body and do autopsies and biopsies.
What's the number one thing humans are afraid of?
What they don't understand. Yeah. We also have a nasty habit of destroying that which we touch.
Another thing, now look at the history. Look at today.
Yeah.
Progress. Evolution. Good, eventually, if you look at the history of the human race, overall, good eventually prevails.
Okay.
Against all odds, Greece defeated Persia. Against all odds, the colonies of America beat the British. The stressful amount of time and effort and deity of Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves.
You know what's really frustrating about that? The fact that he freed the slaves, but a bunch of places, since they didn't have like email and they didn't have telephones and they didn't have television, even though a bunch of the other states knew that slaves were supposed to be free now, they didn't acknowledge it, and they kept their slaves for another like 5 or 10 years until finally the slaves heard, and they were like, wait a minute, the fuck? Well, screw you, we're leaving.
Another prime example of good conquering evil is one you would love and know. It's World War II.
Yes.
That's probably the closest thing to a true like good versus evil scenario.
Every time I watch anything about the Holocaust, I always cry.
Because Hitler was set out to conquer the world and could have won.
He got so close.
The big turning point was Japan attacking America and bringing it into the war.
Yeah.
And
until then, they were staying out of it.
Now, the only reason I'm stressing this is you can hate humanity's past, but you have to love it for its ability to change and evolve and grow.
Yes.
That shows all the potential of what can be.
But with the growth, there are still not as many, but there's still that bias, there's still that stigma against people of color.
People are still alive that strongly believe. Yeah, because I'm sure, as you know, long before slaves were free. Do you know how long slaves were slaves?
Yeah. They came over like almost immediately after the settlements. Even the Native Americans were turned into slaves.
That's 200 years. All of America's
history.
So until 1860, that is not. That is 140 years ago. That they were free.
And even before then, in Egypt,
no,
in
that
Rome,
well, that's separate. I'm talking about just America's history. Egypt, you don't even want to.
Yeah, we don't even want to discuss that.
Because the
in
point
Rome
is,
and Greece.
The younger the human race is, let's just go with.
It was a common practice.
Look now, compare children to adults to now to then.
Good example.
Humanity eventually gets smarter and evolves, but you have to start out as a stupid baby. I'd say, as far as humans go, we're a teenager.
Yeah. Because there are still traits that I see among humankind that it just enrages me, and it's largely in the younger generation and the older generation. It makes me so mad. Like when I was talking about the potluck earlier that I went to yesterday, there's a certain individual who I got into a conversation with, and I don't know, it wasn't even a conversation, it was an argument, and I don't know why everybody knows not to get into arguments with him. But I was saying, you know, I'm supportive of gay marriage, because who the hell am I to say you don't have the right to get married? I don't have that right. I mean, I'm not in that relationship. If they love each other, like Neil Patrick Harris loves his husband and Ellen DeGeneres loves Portia, they should be allowed to marry each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I have absolutely no right to tell them not to. And it's the same. I have the same issue with people who are like, gay couples shouldn't be allowed to adopt. It's like bullshit. Do you know how many people that are straight couples just screw with the foster system to get money out of it? And welfare just to get money out of it, when there are gay couples that would be more than happy to give a loving home? And he and I got into this whole argument, and I'm sitting there listening to it going, there are still so many people out there that think this way. And I would love to believe that we have grown to be more accepting, but I think it's only our generation. That's what it really feels like.
No.
To me, that's what it feels like.
No, because I can't help but look at my parents.
There are exceptions to the rule. Your parents were not raised in this.
Again,
your mother was. Where was your mother born?
L.A.
See, your mother's one of the cool exceptions. There are exceptions, but your father was from New Zealand. They're a lot more accepting, I would think. Really?
No.
I would think they'd be a lot more accepting.
No, it's the same thing. Their generation.
I know my mom
is very similar
grandma.
to an American's generation. Although they, instead of Native Americans, they have the Maori, the natives. New Zealand is about as young, if not a little older or a little younger.
Can we turn light on?
No.
Okay. It's very dark in here.
It's just unnecessary for now.
Okay.
But New Zealand's about the same age as America.
Okay.
As far as the Western colonization. It's Native Americans. I mean, America obviously also has Native Americans still alive. But they have a larger abundance, although New Zealand is considerably smaller. And they're called the Maori.
Okay.
And they are the natives of New Zealand Islands.
Okay.
But, again, it's so young, the country, since it's the same role as America. And I have aunts.
That are not accepting.
Yeah. And
my grandmother's that way on my dad's side.
Where
was it? We were out somewhere, and there was this couple in front of us, two men, and they were holding hands, walking with their holding hands, and my grandmother looks at them and goes, "Are they gay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Grandma, it looks like it." And she's like, "It's kind of inappropriate. They shouldn't be walking like that." And I looked at her, and usually I'm very, I don't try and speak up to my grandma because I love her. And I really do respect her.
It's really hard when it's family.
But I did turn to her and I said, "Grandma, that's more accepted now. And I think that it's They're not kissing each other. They're not making out. They're not doing anything inappropriate. I mean, for all we know, they could be brothers. For all we know, maybe it's father and son. Maybe it's two cousins. They might not even be dating. They might just be related. They might be maybe they're best friends that just feel comfortable enough with their masculinity and heterosexuality to hold hands. I mean, I'm not gonna judge someone because of ancient societal beliefs that are old and very negative and prejudiced and filled with hatred, bud.
Because so as you know, each generation gets closer when you go back to that time. Like I said, the 60s, 1960s was when things changed. Basically, 100 years of the same prejudice of jobs and treatment. Because like I said, it's one thing to free the slaves. It's another for people to say, you are the same as us.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I agree with them, but you have to understand what that was like for them. Because they weren't... You know, it's
that
like,
was the norm back then.
Recently, like the past 20 years, we've discovered that smoking is bad for you.
Was it in the past 30 years?
I don't know. But...
I think it's like the past 30 years.
Anyway, that recently, how long have you been smoking?
Oh, God.
How long
since the 19...
was there... Now,
hundreds? No, further. Further.
Now, despite this knowledge...
Have we stopped?
There's less. But you have to remember, things have progressed is the point.
Okay.
It will take a long time. And also, the one thing about humanity is diversity. Even if I don't agree, I will respect someone's right to think and hate so long
as they don't.
As you can say it, you can think it.
Oh.
It's fine.
Okay.
You can hate Jews and blacks and gay people so long as you don't speak out against them or do anything
to them
about
in general and in
like no physical action or just, and that's, it sounds strange, but that's okay, because everyone has a right to think exactly the way that they think.
You make a good point. Now we should get back to this.
Oh, and the last thing was, it's not exactly our parents' generation. It is and it isn't. Because we're all raised by our parents. And their parents were raised by their parents, and their parents, and their parents.
Now we're getting into the nature versus nurture. How much do we take? Because people do believe that some of our belief system is genetic.
How many people of this generation know about and accept gays without first having potentially good parents that agreed with it?
Yeah.
If I can have my parents, other people do too.
That's true.